Yeah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this morning. My name is Tom Shields. I'm the Operations Director here at Pimbrook Software. And today I'd like to talk about Sage in the cloud and specifically our take on this, which is the Pimbrook Cloud. The Sage products we support, which is Sage 50 and Payroll, are not cloud software products. Sage 50, in fairness to Sage, does have some cloud features like Sage Drive, bank feeds, connection to Microsoft 365, but the whole product itself cannot operate as a cloud product. And due to their popularity, over hundreds of thousands of users in the UK and Ireland, and the work that would be required to redevelop these products, it's likely that this will remain for the foreseeable future. But we do get a lot of requests from people about moving these products into the cloud because people want to take the benefits like reduced hardware and the cost associated with it, better remote access, better data protection, etc. So the Pimbrook Cloud is our solution to this. And over the next 30 minutes or so, I hope to introduce that to you, and we'll allow for some questions at the end, all going well. So just a few things to note before we begin. We've quite a few attendees here, so just to keep things moving, all the attendees are muted. And if you do wish to ask a question, you can do so using the chat option that should be at the bottom of your screen here. And I'll try and answer as many of those questions as I can at the end of the presentation. If I can't answer any questions, I will certainly follow up later on. If after the presentation you've got any more queries, you can certainly email me or sales, and I've posted up my email address there. We will be recording this session, and we make it available to everyone on our website. Okay, so what we'll be covering today, just for context, I would like to outline a typical Sage software environment setup. So we'll use Sage 50 for an example, and then I'll talk about the Pimbrook Cloud and what is it, and we'll include a demonstration of that. I'd like to talk about the benefits of it, and then who might consider this and when, and we'll look at the pricing plans then that we have on offer. Okay, so a typical Sage environment that you probably will all be familiar with. Taking Sage 50 as an example, Sage will be installed on a hardware infrastructure which is typically supplied by the client, normally through their IT. This hardware will require an operating platform, so you'll have to get Microsoft Windows licenses, for example, and then Sage is installed on that hardware. So on the server, you would have the Sage data and your company data and the Sage software services to work with that. You will on each of the PC desktops, you will have the Sage client software, and that's where the users log in, and then they're all connected over your local area network. Okay. All of these components then have to be compatible for example, for specification and versions, they all have to work together and remain so. So any upgrades would have to be considered. And if you want to introduce remote access to this, the temptation is to move or replicate one of the local clients onto a remote PC or laptop. Normally maybe get your IT to set up a wide area network, typically over a virtual private network or a VPN as they call it, and that connects to your data on the server. This is not recommended, nor is it supported by Sage, because if you're updating data across this wide area network onto your data server and you lose any connection there, even momentarily, you can corrupt the data in Sage. So the best options for remote access is to either implement Sage Drive, which synchronizes the data from your server through the Sage Drive services and gives a copy of that data to the remote user, who then works on that, and then any changes are synchronized back through the Sage Drive service. So that's one option. Another option would be to get your IT to set up a remote desktop connection, whereby the remote PC connects to one of your PCs in the office and runs Sage from there. So if there's any loss of connection, you just log back on and everything's kept safe. So there are your two current options. All of this for protection. It's recommended that you should have security built around this. So you'd need firewalls to protect your environment, antivirus, protect against virus threats. You should have some continuity features, so things like an UPS to protect against power outages or spikes. And the hardware ideally should be able to fail over, so you might have, if a disk goes, it'll kick in a spare disk. You should have a valid backup and restore system, ideally off-site. So if you lose this environment, you can still get back to your data. And all of it needs to be, or should be, managed to keep it all running and up to date. So patching and stuff like that. And you need support. So really, you'd be looking at really needing a good IT provider to help you with this sort of environment. Okay, so what is the Pimbrook Cloud and how does it differ from that? So in a nutshell, it's a secure, fully managed private cloud environment which is designed to host the Sage products, Sage 50 or payroll. Excuse me. The components of it, so Pimbrook Cloud provides all the services required to support your Sage software in a managed virtual environment, and this replaces all of the physical components we just talked about in the normal environment. So for example, you've got a virtual desktop provided as a service, so a software service to replace your physical desktops. You've got infrastructure and platform services which will provide the hardware and the operating systems that are required. Built into all of that, you've got a disaster recovery, business continuity, so any failures in the systems will be coped with, backup and recovery services, so that's all included. And then your Sage software subscription is included as well, all into this one component called the Pimbrook Cloud. And you connect to that from any device, PC, a laptop, you could just a tablet, once it's suitable for running Sage, via a browser over broadband. Okay, and that's it in a nutshell. So let's just take a look at that in real terms. So I'm just going to hop to the login screen. So you've got I'm in a browser now, and I've just entered in our test link. I will log in. Okay, I'm presented with my functions here, so I just click my desktop. That's all set up for me, and now it runs now it runs a Windows desktop. So it's a familiar environment, but I'm running all of this in a browser. So on here, I've got various functions down, or various services down the end there. If you can see that, we've got an antivirus system there. We've got some monitoring security systems all built in. And on it, we've got your application. So in this instance, we've got Sage 50. And if I click into that, okay, so this is the new version of Sage 50, version 27. Just in case it's unfamiliar to yourselves, this was, but it will look, your Sage 50 will look as the same as what you were used to. So customers, we're going to edit a customer. Okay. And we've set up our AccountMate add-on, so you can use AccountMate in here. You could use set up payroll as well. So all your applications are there on your desktop. This is your specific user's desktop. And this is all connected back to the server. So there's a server in this environment, as we explained before. So you also have an area that you can use for storing files or documents centrally. So like a file server area. There's the data areas for the applications, but we set up here just a general file sharing area that you can use to hold your documents. Okay. Just reopen Sage there. I'm just gonna. This is, as I said, it's all protected. There's full continuity here from within the cloud. But let's say you lose your broadband, or your PC that you're using, your device that you're using to access this dies. So I'm going to do a cut. I'm in the middle of entering customers. I lose connection, right? So I drop, my broadband drops, or power in the office drops. So let's go back to open this. Okay, bring back up my login. Log back in, pull up my desktop. And I'm exactly where I left it, where I lost connection. Okay. Right. So that's what it looks like. So what's the benefits of Pimbrook Cloud? So there's no special hardware needed to support it. As I said, you can use just a simple Chromebook, to connect to this. Once you have broadband connection, you connect onto it. The cloud providers would say there's up to a 70% saving in comparison to going out, getting your own hardware, setting it all up, maintaining it, supporting it. The main benefit here, you can access it from anywhere once you have a computer and a broadband connection. It's fully managed and supported, so all patching, updates, security monitoring, and full support is all included in this. And you've got full continuity of the business functions that you put on that. So all the software that's on that will be, all the hardware that it runs on is fail safe. It's duplicated. It should never go down. And the typical stat that they say is there's up to 72% reduced downtime of computer functionality. It's very secure, and it's hosted here in Ireland. We use Fujitsu data centers in Dublin, and our partner EVAD IT provide all the cloud expertise for this. It's also fully compliant with all the regulations out there. So, for example, GDPR for data protection, all fully compliant with that. And also, I see a lot of insurance companies that are offering cybersecurity now insist on a validated disaster recovery plan. So this would have all that capability in it. And most importantly for ourselves, it's customized for the Sage software that we're trying to run on it. Okay. Just a quick word on the support we offer around this, because it's a critical part of it. Obviously, at the moment, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with our support on the Sage products. This will obviously expand, so you'll come through the same channels to get support for the Pimbrook Cloud. If you go with it, you can still talk to the same people on the Sage side. But we've, I suppose, come up with this idea of an acronym, FAST support, and it's to describe the various aspects of this. We still remain totally focused on supporting your Sage operation. We're providing an extra environment, facilities to host that, but we're still focusing on that. And any queries then that come through to us are then assigned to the correct person that needs to deal with that. So you'll talk with Julia, Fiona, Samantha here on your Sage issues, and if we need to escalate any of the cloud side of a query, we get the cloud or Microsoft technicians involved in that, which you deal directly with us. The service is fully managed, so as I say, from the cloud down to the ground up, so all updates, patching and all is completely done, and the idea is to stay up fully running for you, available anytime. And we want a quick and timely response to all support queries, get them resolved quickly for you if there are any. Okay, so who might consider this and when? It's certainly not for everyone, depending on where they are with their current systems and that. So typically it would be anyone considering moving to Sage, let's say Sage 50, and they're possibly coming from a very manual system or just using Excel. So they would need to look at new systems to support that. They might, for the first time, need a server, a proper network, all of that. So that's a huge commitment, huge capital investment, and time and getting all that supported and in place. So that would certainly be a good candidate for looking at this. Slightly related to it, and it might be more relevant to yourselves if you already have a Sage product with us, is where you might be having some performance issues, and they typically are going back to the current environment and hardware and system that you have. So these may need to be updated, more memory, more disk, faster disk, just cleaned up. So that very quickly can start to result in buying new hardware and stuff like that. So this would be an option there. As we know, a lot of us are working more from home or more remotely, and a lot of business are looking at this because we believe it's going to continue even after this virus hopefully abates. So any companies looking to get more remote working capability would certainly be this would be a useful thing to look at. Then just reducing the maintenance and the time and cost that can be involved in just keeping systems up to date. That could be an issue. People want to get away from it. They don't have an internal IT or even an external IT to help them. Excuse me. If there's compliance issues, so as I mentioned, data protection, your internal systems may not have that covered for you. Disaster recovery, protection against cyber attack, all of those things. And we're trying to protect the core functions here. So you're talking about your accounts, your financial functions, or your payroll. So these are, you know, very, very important functions for most companies here. So it's really vital that these are protected. And I suppose just to mention that we are ourselves moving to this environment. Our in-house systems are coming to an end of life at the moment. We, like a lot of yourselves, are looking at more remote working. And when we looked at the cost of replacing all of our hardware, our systems, and looked at this over time, it was just a lot better value for what you get for what you have to pay out. Yeah, so we're moving to this ourselves. Okay, so let's have a look at some. So the pricing plans. With 3 standard pricing plans, which we've designed to suit the, I suppose, the main sizes of systems that we see out there. I hope you can see all that. It's a little bit small, some of the writing, but all of the plans. So we've got Business Lite, Business Plus, Business Pro, and they're all charged monthly, and they all include easy, secure access from anywhere, as I described. You get a cloud-based data server in there, which will obviously host the Sage server element, but you can also use for file sharing and storage. You get a number of virtual desktops, so that's effectively your user PC desktop in the cloud. So you get a number of those. You also get your Sage 50, for example, your Sage 50 licenses or your Sage licenses all bundled up in there. You get complete business continuity, backup and recovery services. Effectively, we're looking at this not ever going down. It's fully managed, so all patching to keep your operating system and all up to date. Fully monitored to check for security threats or any issues that might be occurring. So if disks are starting to fill up or space is starting to fill up, that's all fully monitored. And then our premium support for all of this, excuse me, and the Sage product that you have is all incorporated in that. So it's a full bundled in service. Just to note a few notes on that. There's the use, the connections, the virtual desktops and the Sage licenses, they're concurrent. So it's the number of people that can use this at one time. Now, typically you would be giving each user their own logon, but if you had maybe more casual users, they could share that if once they don't clash, obviously. I said, these are the standard plans we have set out. Obviously, if you are looking at something that doesn't quite match that, we can talk about customized pricing for that. Okay. So I suppose finally then, if you wanted to proceed with this, or someone wanted to proceed with this, what is the steps to do that? It's quite simple. Certainly if you're moving from Sage 50, you simply pick a plan that suits you, talk to us if there's any customization around that. We take that, we get that environment all built for you, specific for that, for those requirements. We migrate your data with you, and that could be very, very simple. If you're coming from Sage 50, moving it into the cloud area and upgrading it if it needs to be for the latest version of Sage. Once you're all happy with that, we pick a go live date, and you're off and running, and we support you from that point on. Okay, so that's really everything covered. I'll open her up for any questions now. I think I see a few questions have come through. onto the chat box. I'll have a look at those now. As I said, if you want to contact me directly, there's my email there, or indeed sales at Pimbrook, and we can talk to you about this further. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay, just a few questions coming through here. Someone has asked, they came in late, have asked, are you saying that Sage doesn't support VPN connections at all then? A VPN is just a virtual private network. It is running over a wide area network, and Sage, for example, Sage 50 or payroll, is not supported if you have the Sage client software on the remote PC and you're connecting to the Sage data over a VPN connection to your data. So that's where Sage won't support it. What you can do, as I explained, is you can use your virtual private network to set up a remote desktop which connects you to a PC in your office that has Sage on it, and then run from there. So I hope that clarifies that a little bit. Someone just asked, can you run it as an app instead of a desktop? So, and goes on to ask, how does it integrate with Office 365 that is installed on the local laptop at home? No, okay, can it be installed? Just break that down. It'll kind of be run as an app. There is an app you can use, you can download onto your desktop, which allows it to, what I showed in the presentation there was running it through the browser, and that's, I suppose, the simplest way. But you can download an app onto your desktop, and what that allows you to do is integrate more closely with your desktop. So for cutting and pasting and copying stuff to your, as you say, to your laptop. Your Office 365, if you want to fully integrate with that, what we would recommend is that you install, with Office 365, you get a number of, you can install a number of instances. So you would install that on your Pimbrook Cloud desktop and then fully integrate with Sage that way. But you can, that's if you wanted to, to open up Excel from Sage 50, you can actually, obviously, just export out the CSV and then copy that to your laptop. So there's a number of ways of doing that. But best thing would be to do is you would run Office 365 from that desktop. Can you turn on two-phase authentication? So I think this is more, someone's asking there about like maybe getting a text message and stuff like that. I will check that out. I believe you can. I will check that out with our technicians here. What kind of monitoring do you use? I'll get back. I get our technicians to talk to you about that as well. It's all, as I said, it's all hosted by Fujitsu. So that it'll be all the tools that they supply. Someone's asked, I see the licenses are for 2, 5, or 10 users. We have 12 users, but only a max of 10 will be logged in at any one time. Could we use that? Could we use it that way? Yeah. The blocks of users there that we said match the Sage license blocks. So that's where those standard pricing plans came up. We came up with those. We can obviously So if you want to add more users, they typically, as you may know, now they're added in blocks. I think normally blocks of 5 from Sage, but certainly you can yes, they are. It is concurrent users, so yes, you can log on, as you say, a maximum of 12, as you may do now, and use that. And then as soon as one of those connections frees up, you can log back in, or another person can log in. Sorry. Someone has asked about the Excel and other Microsoft products. Can this go on the cloud? They can. They certainly can be installed on the cloud. We would, as I said before, probably recommend going with your Office 365 because that is a cloud-based product, so it integrates a lot better. But you can certainly install that. And another question: also, did these prices include the payroll software? No, the prices we gave there include just the Sage 50. So if you wanted payroll on as well, or instead, they'd be slightly adjusted to depending on the payroll license that you want and the version of payroll that you want. Certainly talk to sales and we can price that up for you. Good question here. What's the timeline for a solution to migration and implementation? If you're talking about moving from an on-premise, you have Sage already. Let's take Sage 50, which is probably more complicated setup. Moving from Sage 50 from your on-premise to the cloud, you really are talking a matter of days. We should be able to set that up very, very quickly for you. The great thing as well is we can set it up and you can try it out, see how it works, and compare it to your existing systems. Yeah, that's an interesting question here. Someone here is dealing with companies in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and they're asking, does Sage automatically pick up which region it's been worked on for things like tax and that? Sage, from my understanding, it takes the regional settings on the PC that you're logged into. So I would, in that case, I'd imagine that would stay the same. So in this case, I'd imagine we would have to set up some of the desktops to be for a particular region so that Sage can pick that up. We can set that up for you. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. I think that's most of the questions. There are a few there that I will get more on the technical side, and I'll get the technicians to get back to those people. But I'd just like to thank you all, and I hope you found that useful. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.